Clerk, ring the quorum bell for 5 minutes.
Well, the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kathuri Murungi, has just directed that the quorum bell be rung for 5 minutes. This is, of course, to allow members who are yet to get into the chambers to enable the House achieve its requisite quorum for the commencement of business to be able to walk in. And therefore, the quorum bell will be rung, and of course, to alert the members that the sitting is starting and that their presence at the chambers is needed. The Honorable Senator Samson Cherargei for Nandi will be presenting a petition on behalf of Mrs. Zipporah C.K. Seronei concerning mistreatment, harassment, property loss, and human rights violation meted on the family of the late Honorable Jean Marie Seronei. That is a petition that is lined up in the order of business for this afternoon sitting, and this petition will be presented by the Honorable Member for Nandi, Senator Samson Cherargei. Pursuant to Standing Order 53, subsection 1, nominated Senator Honorable Esther Okenyuri will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights regarding the lack of a national design and framework for civic education in Kenya. The Senator for West Pokot County, Honorable Julius Murgor, will also be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources concerning the grabbing of land belonging to Kanyakwat Group Ranch in West Pokot County. Also pursuant to Standing Order 53, subsection 1, the Senator for Nandi County, Honorable Samson Cherargei, will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Labour and Social Welfare regarding alleged mismanagement, irregular procurement, and misuse of funds at the Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. The Senator for Kisumu County, Honorable Professor Tom Ojenda, will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Health concerning the poor state of delivery of health services in Kisumu County. Those are a number of statements that, pursuant to standing orders of the House, these members will have that opportunity to seek for a response from the standing committees as required. Currently is a 5-minute quorum bell as directed by the Deputy Speaker of the Senate to allow members to walk into the chambers and enable the House achieve its requisite quorum that is prescribed in the standing orders before the commencement of the House. 15 members ought to be seated in the chambers at the commencement of the House business, and currently is a quorum bell to enable the House achieve that required number of members in the chambers for the House business to kick off. Honorable Senator Enoch Wambua will be moving a motion on drought mitigation program in public schools. And according to the member, is that Kenya is experiencing the most intense, severe and alarming drought in 40 years as a result of the failure of 4 consecutive rainy seasons affecting more than 20 counties in arid and semi-arid lands, commonly referred to as ASAL areas. The member also notes that aware that more than 4.2 million people, representing 24% of the ASAL population, are facing high levels of acute food insecurity, with about 2.7 million in crisis phase and over 700,000 people in emergency state. This motion will be seeking to have the House resolve or urge the Ministry of East African Community, the ASALs and Regional Development to develop immediate and long-term interventions to alleviate the ravaging effects of drought and hunger periodically affecting the country and more severely the ASAL areas. Again, this motion seeks to urge the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Council of Governors, to establish modalities to ensure no learners are sent away from schools due to lack of school fees, to ensure that children from vulnerable families have access to education. And finally, this motion seeks to urge the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Council of Governors, to implement effective school feeding programs to ensure that children from vulnerable families in drought-hit regions have access to at least one hot meal per day, and that no child misses classes due to lack of food. This motion is lined up for consideration on the floor of the Senate this afternoon and will be moved by Honorable Senator Enoch Wambua. Currently is a quorum bell. Members are slowly walking into the chambers. Of course, the House has to attain a requisite number of 15 members in the chambers before the commencement of the House business. And that is what is currently happening, waiting for that particular number to be achieved to enable the House begin its business this afternoon. The Honorable Senator Mohammed Chute is this afternoon also moving a motion on the institution of measures to curb incessant high electricity cost in Kenya. This motion seeks to resolve that contracts signed by independent power producers detailing the cost, capacity and duration of the the quorum has been achieved. Allow me to hand you over back to this live broadcast. Good afternoon. My name is Kamche Menza.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, we have a visiting delegation from the Parliament of Uganda in the Speaker's Gallery. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from the Parliament of Uganda. The delegation comprises parliamentary officers who are on a benchmarking visit. I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that you may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. Honorable Senator, find your way to your seat. Ms. Sitina Chemisto Chelotich, General Counsel, Leader of Delegation. Mr. Solomon Kirunda, Director, Litigation. Dr. Robert Tumukwasibwe, Assistant Director, Table Office. Mr. Andilo Daniel, Assistant Director, Human Resources. Ms. Irene Milembe, Senior Administrative Assistant, Office of the Clerk. Mr. Ambangila Joshua, Human Resource Officer. Mr. Businga Police Friend, Principal Administrative Secretary, Office of the Clerk. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome and wish you a fruitful visit. Thank you. Honorable Senators, I have another communication to make concerning the demise of Honorable Kuro Maharim Hassan, Member of Parliament for Banisa constituency. Honorable Senators, It is with the deep sorrow that you of the untimely demise of the member of the National Assembly for Banisa constituency, the Honorable Kuro Marim Hassan, MP. That happened on Wednesday, 29th March 2023, after being involved in a road accident on Saturday, 25th March 2023, near the Al-Huda Mosque in Saudi B Estate, Nairobi. Honorable Senators, the late Honorable Hassan Kulo Nalim was born in Mandera County. He earned a Master's of Science degree in Development Studies and a Bachelor's degree in Education, both from Kenyatta University, and a Diploma in Education from Siriba Teachers College. The departed colleague standing for the Kenya Advanced Certificate of Education, KACE, at Mandera High School, where he also served for his ordinary O-level education. He was an accomplished teacher, and after graduating from Siriba Teachers College, he taught at Wajir High School before proceeding to Sheikh Hari School in Ilamu, Mandera County, where he also served as the deputy principal. Thereafter, he moved to Kigali Teachers College as a lecturer until 1992, when he changed careers and became the project coordinator at the Harland Regional Integrated Agency until 1993. Honorable Senator, proceed to your seat. Until his premature demise, the late Honorable Kuro was serving his second term in Parliament. He was first elected as a member from Banisa constituency in 2017 on the Economic Freedom Party, EFP, and re-election on the 13th Parliament in August 2022 under the sponsorship of the United Democratic Movement, UDM Party. The late honorable member will be remembered as a dedicated legislator in the National Assembly who served in the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives and the Public Accounts Committee. In the 12th Parliament, the late Honorable Kuro served in the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Honorable Senators, in accordance with the Islamic tradition, the bond of our departed colleague was buried at 1:45 p.m. yesterday, Wednesday, 29th March 2023, at the Muslim cemetery in Langata, which was preceded by Janaza prayers at Masjid Nur Mosque in Saudi C, Nairobi. On behalf of all senators and the entire staff of the Senate, and indeed on my own behalf, I wish to take this opportunity to condole with the family of Honorable Kuro Marim, members of the National Assembly, the people of Banisa constituency, and all his friends in this most difficult time. The Parliament of Kenya and the nation at large has indeed lost a diligent leader. Honorable Senators, in honor of our departed colleague, I request that in the issue of tradition, we all stand and observe a moment of silence. May the soul of the late Honorable Kuro Marim Hassan rest in Jannah. I thank you. Honorable Senators, I want to give a few members to condole our departed colleague. My dashboard is blank. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to join you together with the rest of our colleagues in condoling with the family of our departed colleague, the Honorable Hassan. Honorable Hassan was a very likable gentleman, a good friend to many of us, and it's sad in the way that he eventually met his death. From what I hear, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Hassan loved walking on the streets of this city, and it's during one of his morning strolls, I was knocked down by a motorbike. I was at the Aga Khan Hospital. Unfortunately, he succumbed to the injuries yesterday morning. It's really unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that such a gifted leader, serving, I think, his second term, because I know you served with him in the National Assembly last term. That's why I met him together with many of colleagues with whom they served together in the Transport Committee. On many occasions, we debate on the politics of the day at the members' lounge, the tea area, where many afternoons members do get to engage each other. And I remember fondly engaging him on his side of the political divide versus ours, and how we view the world differently. It's the way of life for all of us that are on this earth, Mr. Speaker. So condolences to the people of Banisa for losing their leader and member that they cherished and elected for the second time last August, Mr. Speaker, only for him to depart hardly a few months after they had granted him the mandate to represent them in the August House. It's unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, but it calls unto us as leaders to reflect and know that there is no certainty, Mr. Speaker, that we live by faith, knowing that we are here today, but not certain about tomorrow. I wish him well in his journey, Mr. Speaker, and do wish his family great comfort. I do know members of the family, some of them as well, Mr. Speaker. We wish them great comfort during this time of extreme difficulty. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if I'd be remiss, but I want to just in a minute also welcome the visiting delegation from the Parliament of Uganda, who have joined us. Like I have said in this house before, Kenya was granted the opportunity to host IAPI, East African Parliamentary Institute. If you've driven along Langata Road in Karen, Mr. Speaker, you know that just before the Kenya School of Law, there's a construction that Parliament of Kenya is undertaking. That is the institute that will host the training institute for all the parliaments of the East African community, which on many occasions, apart from visiting Parliament, delegations such as the one we have today with us, Mr. Speaker, will head there for their training. This is an honor that we were given by the Heads of State Summit about 2 or 3 years ago, and Kenya is quickly expediting on that process to ensure that in a few years' time, we are able to congregate there and interact. I know, Mr. Speaker, and I say this as a ranking member and somebody who's been around for a while, that amongst all the parliaments of the East African community, our closest friends, Mr. Speaker, are the Parliament of Uganda. We interact with them during the annual IALA Games and get to play with them. I was looking keenly to see if I'd spot any of the footballers that we play with, but I believe maybe the members, the team that are visiting, they look a bit posh to me, so they must be members of a golf team or a sport that is a bit more affluent than football, which is played by ordinary mortals like myself, Mr. Speaker. But I wish them well during their stay in Kenya. May they get the full optimum, Mr. Speaker, duration of their study and whatever they are looking forward to getting during this interaction with members of Parliament and the staff and everything that they are looking forward to. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Honorable Senators, let us take just 2 minutes to pass the message that you have on the 2 communications that I made. So next is Senator Medu John Muhia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I confirm that I'm the Senator for Nyandarua. I also joined my colleagues in sending my most sincere condolences to the family of the Honorable Hassan. I have had an opportunity of knowing Honorable Hassan. He was a humble leader and a man who was he had committed his life to serving his people. Serving in his second term as Speaker, it is such a blow to his constituents, the people of his constituency. It is also a very big loss, I'm sure, to the family. I would want to ask that God gives them comfort to take and bear the loss. And I'm also passing also my most sincere condolences again to his party, the UDM party, whose party leader is our colleague, the Honorable Dr. Captain Ari Roba, and indeed the other members of the UDM party who are here. UDM party is part of our Kenya Kwanza fraternity. So we send our most sincere condolences. We ask that God comforts the hearts of the family. Mr. Speaker, if you also allow me to also send my most sincere condolences again to my alma mater, the university that gave me my degree, the Pony University, who have this afternoon unfortunately have lost a big group of students who are on their way to Jaramogi Oginga University for a games event, Mr. Speaker, and we've seen a communication from the university, maybe which will come to your office a little later, that we have lost them in tents, and it is such a sad situation, Mr. Speaker, that parents who sent their students to study and students who left the university. Pony University is quite far. It is in Kilifi County. They came all the way to Naivasha. They went to fly the flag of our university, Pony University, very high. And it is such a sad situation, Mr. Speaker, that I will go back in caskets. I would want to send my sincere condolences to the parents of the departed comrades. Send my most sincere condolences to the fraternity of the Pony University fraternity, both the students, the teaching and non-teaching staff, and those of us who are the alumni of that university. It's a dark cloud over our institution, and I'm sure we shall be able to bounce back again. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also want to welcome the visiting delegation from the Parliament of Uganda. I confirm, just as the Speaker who spoke before me, we enjoyed some bit of warmth from our colleagues, the members of Parliament who are playing with us for the football team of the Parliament of Uganda. So they are our friends and they are our brothers, and we are hopeful that we shall be able to give them and show them our legendary hospitality as a country, as a Parliament, and as a legislature. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Okenyuri Hester Anyeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was actually gutted to learn about the demise of Honorable Kuluo. I first met Honorable Hassan at my days in the office of the Deputy President, where I worked closely on TVET issues in the Strategy and Delivery Unit. Honorable Kulo was a frequent visitor in that department because he was all the time following up on the development of technical training institutions for the people of Banisa, which was in line with Jubilee's agenda of equipping young people with technical skills to solve the issue of unemployment. So it's really saddening me, and later we reconnected with him in the Senate. He frequently kept checking whether I had actually gotten nominated. That's how close the relationship was. Then later I learned about his demise from our caretaker, who was actually part of the team that rescued him on that day and who provided the CCTV footage that assisted in arresting the Boda Boda rider. So on behalf of my own self, the young people, I want to send my sincere condolences to the family, friends, and people of Banisa constituency, and my condolences to the comrades who've also lost their lives from Pwani University. Once a comrade, always a comrade. And finally, I also wish to welcome the members from the Ugandan Parliament. The last time I was there, I think most of them thought I'm their long-lost sister in Kenya. But I want to remind them, yes, that's your sister in Kenya, and we welcome you to this parliament. Thank you.
I'm trying to balance both the signs, and now I engage Senator Kenyu and Eri to join.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kuonyesha usawa kwa wote Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, nataka kuungana na wewe kwa kuleta risala za rambirambi za watu wote wa Laikipia kupeleka kwa watu wa Banisa na kuambia kwamba wamempoteza kiongozi Mheshimiwa Kuro Hassan, ambaye tunamjua, mtu aliyejitolea na kufanyia wananchi kazi bila kupendelea, kama vile Bwana Spika ulivyofanya, bila kupendelea upande wowote. Hata Mheshimiwa Kuro alikuwa namna hiyo, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo mimi nileta risala zangu mwenyewe za familia yangu na vile vile za watu wa Laikipia, na tuseme ya kwamba ndugu zetu wa bodaboda ambao wanaendesha hizi pikipiki wawe waangalifu, kwa sababu ajali zinatokea kwa watu wengi. Huyu ni mmoja ambaye tunaye kuja hapa kuleta zetu rambirambi, lakini kila siku unapata watu wetu wanapata hizi ajali, wengine wanakufa, vijana wale wa bodaboda hata wanapata maafa. Ukitembelea hospitali zetu unapata wagonjwa wengi wametokana na hizi ajali za bodaboda, wale wanaendesha bodaboda wanaumia. Kwa hivyo siku ya leo, Bwana Spika, ni siku ya huzuni kwa sisi kumpoteza kiongozi ambaye tulimuenzi, sasa tutamkosa. Vile ambavyo ningependa kuambia watu wa Banisa, tunawashukuru kwa vile ambavyo walimchagua mara ya pili, na walimchagua kwa sababu ni mchapakazi. Bwana Spika, nataka kuungana na wewe kuwakaribisha ndugu zetu wa kutoka Uganda na tuwaambie wakaribie nchini kwetu, na mimi ni uhakika, kwa sababu ukitembea hata pale Kampala Uganda unawapata wanaongea kwa lugha ya Kiswahili. Ni watu wanakifahamu Kiswahili, wanakimenya, na nasema Kiswahili kitukuzwe. Sisi hapa kwetu tuna ile shule ambayo ilitajwa na kiongozi wa wengi inaitwa CPST, ambayo itakuwa ikifanya mafunzo. Tungeomba mkifika hapo mtembelee hata huko, ndio muweze kuona masomo ambayo yanayotekelezwa huko. Bwana Spika, nasema asanti na nawaambia karibu, na muendelee kwa kucheza golf ambayo imesemekana na ndugu yangu, na hata mimi nimebombea katika golf na najua tutapatana viwanjani. Na kabla hamjaenda nyumbani, mtembelee mbuga zetu za wanyama, ndio muweze kuona mambo ambayo tunafanya hapa Kenya, na mpeleke kwenu nyumbani salamu zetu. Asante Bwana Spika na nashukuru.
Asante sana Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On behalf of myself and the people of Elgeyo-Marakwet County, I wish to convey our condolences to the family of Honorable Hassan. Hassan, we served together in the last Parliament in National Assembly when he was the member for Badiza, and he was re-elected for a second term. So it's unfortunate that he lost his life through an accident in South Sea. We wish the family comfort, peace, strength, and also acceptance during this difficult time. You know, it's not easy to accept that you've lost your loved one. Honorable Speaker, also I wish to also convey my condolences to the youth, the family of the students from Bwana University who lost their lives in Naivasha while they were going for a trip to other universities to compete. And then finally, I welcome our colleagues from Uganda. Welcome to Kenya. Kenya is a warm country where we encourage visitors. The college that is in Karen is at advanced stage. I think they're on the second floor now. So I believe you'll be coming here regularly for training. And this year, December, I'll join you in playing golf also with the Honorable Kinywa. You know, that's the game for those who are already mature and elderly like us. God bless you.
Senator Fatuma Duro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to join you and my colleagues in passing my condolences to our colleague that we lost yesterday. Mr. Kulo, or Mheshimiwa Kulo, is known to me. He's a very humble, down-to-earth legislature that I've known him for the last 6 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kulo is a very hard-working colleague. I know his family, especially the wife who is working at Kura by the name Sadia. It's really very sad. Mr. Speaker, I think a lot of accident is taking place in this country as a result of boda boda. And as a country, we really need to do something about it. But it's unfortunate that one of us is killed by boda boda, which is really, really unfortunate. It was very bad accident because somebody was telling me the injury was so bad that you can't imagine the way the brain was damaged. And that is unfortunate. of course, for a member of parliament, we have insurance. But there are so many Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, that are losing their life. Some of them, they are actually losing their legs and their hands and so many other part of their bodies. And I think something has to be done because it's not right. We do accept boda is the best mode of transport, but the accident that is caused by boda, we need to take serious action on them. So wish the family a strength, and we pray for our brother to go to, according to us Muslim, we say Jannatul Firdaus, that means they goes to the highest heaven. Mr.
You know, she has mentioned heaven now. I can't.
Mr. Speaker,
one moment.
Since I've mentioned heaven, maybe you give me 2 minutes to conclude. Mr. Speaker, it's not easy. We pray for the family, and I wish to welcome also our colleagues from Uganda. As a legal committee, we have received 2 delegations from Uganda this session, and I hope we should also reciprocate in visiting Uganda Parliament so that we can be able to interact with them and learn from them. So wish you a nice day, and we wish you a happy stay in Kenya, and also maybe to be able to learn 1 or 2 things from us. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Senator Mungatana Danson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to join my colleagues in registering my sincere condolences to our colleague who has left us. Mr. Speaker, this is not an ordinary politician. The fact that in 2017 he was elected on the Economic Freedom Party, and then the same person in 2022 he was elected on United Democratic Party, it speaks to the fact that, Mr. Speaker, it is not about the political party, but we are talking about a solid, humble man. People had put a lot of trust, the people of Banisa. I want to say, very sorry. May God give you comfort during this time. And also, very sorry to the family, especially the wife and the children, because, Mr. Speaker, these are the people hardest hit. On behalf of our people in Tana River County, we want to join in expressing sincere condolences to our departed colleague and his family. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I noted that the cause of this accident was because our honorable departed member used to take walks, and Mr. Speaker, that's not very different from what I do. I like running, Mr. Speaker, on the road. And the thing that you notice, Mr. Speaker, is that there are hardly any pavements, pedestrian movements, areas. So
no, honorable senators, kindly note that it's 2 minutes, and also check the light, because we have a lot of business today. And I want us to at least to get somewhere. But if Senator Mugatana, you know you are senior legislator here, just 1 minute, and you are the last one that I'm handing any other some more time to speak.
Yes, Mr. Speaker,
just 1 minute. Conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just saying that we have also failed as a government, as Nairobi County, in providing sufficient pavements where pedestrians can be walking without the fear of these motorcycles. So, Mr. Speaker, this is something that maybe needs to be taken up at this level. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Veronica Nduati.
Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to offer my deepest condolences to the family of Honorable Hassan Kulo, who unfortunately lost his life a few days ago. And before we could recover from those news, Mr. Speaker, he was already buried under the Muslim rites of passage. Mr. Speaker, he's been described by many of his colleagues at the National Assembly as a very humble and a good man. And Mr. Speaker, that is attested to by the fact that he has been voted in twice by the people of Banisa constituency. He departed, Mr. Speaker, under circumstances which maybe could have been avoided, Mr. Speaker, through a road traffic accident with the border, Mr. Speaker. And we would pray that, Mr. Speaker, our nation reaches a point where we can cease to have as many fatalities as we are having in the Republic of Kenya through the road traffic accidents, Mr. Speaker. But if we were to learn from the virtues that were exuded by the legislator who has passed on, Mr. Speaker, his life speaks into our lives on virtues of being good people, people who are reasonable and humble, and people who are not afraid to go for their dreams, Mr. Speaker. He rose from being a teacher and became a legislator representing the wishes of the people, Mr. Speaker. We offer our prayers, our support, our emotional support to the family, to the colleagues, and Mr. Speaker, to the great people of Banisa constituency, and to his political party, the UDM political party, which is led by one of our own colleagues here at Senate, Mr. Speaker, and we pray that God will comfort them and grant them grace. And
thank you, Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to also join you to condole the family and the Banisa constituency, where our brother, Master Hassan and Kulo Ma'alim Hassan. Kulo Ma'alim Hassan actually is well known to me. In 2017, 2020, we were neighbors. We live in the same place in South Sea. And he's a very simple man. I know him. I have seen him in school. I mean, I was classmate with his elder brother. Kulo, actually, when he joined the parliament, he comes from the far end of northern Kenya, the border of Ethiopia and Somalia, and Kenya. And as far as it is, Honorable the late, he used to go to his constituency very frequently. A very hard-working man, a very simple man, a man who was holy and who was attached to the mosque. And I'm sure the people from his constituency will miss him. Mr. Speaker, I want on behalf of on my own behalf, on behalf of Wajir County, I want to condole the family. I know he has a very big family. He has 3 widows, I know, and about 16 children. So such a big number, and I think they still, many of them are young. And we pray to them that may God Almighty bring them up in the most simple way, and may also God bless him in heaven and in the paradise of what we call Jannah Firdausa. With those few remarks, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Sheikh. Senator William Cheptum Mokipolil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to send my heartfelt condolences to the family, friends and the relatives of the late Hassan. Mr. Speaker, I served in the National Assembly with the late in the 12th Parliament. And I can actually confirm to colleagues here that indeed Honorable Hassan was a very humble man, a very friendly person, and very committed to his work as a member of Parliament. During my time in the National Assembly, during the 12th Parliament, we used to even have some programs with him. When he has functions in his place, I would send him some money in support. When I have in my place, he used to also contribute substantially. So this country has lost a very, very important leader. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the great people of Banisa definitely will miss his leadership. We continue to pray for the family that God will continue to uphold them and to give them the peace during this very difficult moment. And I think, Mr. Speaker, the problem of these accidents arising from border. Today we are able to speak about our colleague because we know him. But there are many Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who really also lose their lives through this accident of the borders. I think there is need to come up with ways and means of ensuring that we reduce this, said by members. Finally, Mr.
Your message is from Chair Security. The last is from Senator Sigei Wakili.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I also want to join you and the rest of my colleagues in condoling with the family of the late Honorable Hassan and the people of Banisa. Mr. Speaker, on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Bomet, we want to wish the family of the late Honorable Hassan God's grace at this very difficult time. Having a legislature die in the circumstances that the Honorable Hassan lost his life is very difficult to explain. But, Mr. Speaker, we all say the plans that we do have as mortals are different from the plans that the Almighty God has for each and every one of us. And it's time for us to reflect upon our lives and also the responsibilities that are bestowed upon us as leaders of this country and other places where we come from, to make sure that we do the best while we still have the life that God grants us. I want to wish the people of Banisa, the family of the late Hassan, God's grace to overcome the difficult time of losing one of their loved ones. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next.
Order number 4, petitions.
Senator Samson Chelagay has a petition to present. He is not around. Next order. That petition is defined. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Next order. There is a paper to be read by the chair, Agriculture Committee. Do you have any member of the committee around agriculture? You can lead the people on behalf of your chair and the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, the 30th March 2023, report on the Magbin Bill 2022, Senate Bill number 13 of 2022. By the chairperson, I'm not the chairperson, but I do.
Chair, Labor and Social Welfare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make this statement. The Senate request for statement on the grabbing of land.
Chair Liba, there is a paper you are supposed to approach the table. You are not yet to the statement. You are end of time.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate. Today, 30th March 2023, report on employment, Amendment Bill 2022, Senate Bill number 11 of 2022. Chairperson, Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. I lay.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chair Security, Senator Cheptumo William.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice on a notice of motion integration of ethnic minorities and marginalized communities in Kenya. Aware that Kenya is a multi-ethnic country with a rich diversity of cultures, language, and traditions, further aware that ethnic minorities and marginalized communities face significant social, economic, and political challenges, including discrimination, marginalization, and exclusion. Acknowledging that Article 10, Sub-Article 2B, 21C, 21.3, 27, 56, 91, Sub-Article 1C, Article 10, Article 174E, Article 177(1)C, Article 204, Sub-Article 3B, Article 216, Sub-Article 4, and the 5th Schedule to the Constitution of Kenya obligates the state to promote and protect the welfare of ethnic minorities and marginalized communities. Appreciating that the government has put in place policies, legal and institutional framework, including affirmative action programs to address the needs of other social interest groups, namely children, persons with disabilities, youth, women, and elderly. Concerned that ethnic minorities and marginalized communities remain largely unaddressed through similar interventions due to lack of an existing national policy and legislative framework. Now, therefore, this Senate resolves that the Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, the National Gender and Equality Commission, and other state departments in collaboration with the Council of Governors, 1, initiate measures to identify and address the specific needs and challenges faced by ethnic minorities, marginalized communities in Kenya, and 2, develop and implement a national policy and legislative framework for the integration of ethnic minorities and marginalized communities in Kenya as envisaged in the Constitution of Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a second notice of motion.
Okay.
I proceed. Mr. Speaker, this is a notice on declaration of cattle rustling as a national disaster and establishment of a special fund for victims. Aware that cattle rustling is a major menace and security threat to the South and North Rift regions and some other regions in the country. Concerned that the menace has since left irreversible and negative socio-economic impact, which include, but not limited to, an increased number of widows, widowers, orphaned children, poverty, displacement of people, leading to internally displaced persons, IDPs, disruption of educational programs, and other economic activities owing to the destruction and or closure of educational, health, and other institutions. Further concerned that the people living in the affected regions have been denied the enjoyment of their social, economic, and political rights as guaranteed to them under the Bill of Rights as enshrined in our Constitution, Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Now, therefore, this Senate resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, 1, declare cattle rustling a national disaster. 2, establish a national task force on cattle rustling. 2, 1, investigate the causes of the rampant cattle rustling in the said regions and the country at large. 2, establish the extent of loss and damage the cattle rustling menace has occasioned to the communities in all the affected counties. 3, establish a special fund for mitigating the losses suffered by and in compensating all victims of cattle rustling and settle all internally displaced persons occasioned by the cattle rustling menace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let's go to the next one.
Order number 7, statements.
Senator, we have 2-3 statements. Senator Esther Okenyuri. And Honorable Senators, I will advise that from where I sit, we have realized that we are spending a lot of time on statements and members seeking to either support or to make comments on the statements. So we are strictly on the statement hour, which should be followed strictly. And if we save time, we can get to the motions, because also many members who have motions on the order paper are approaching the chair every time requesting whether their motions can be expended with. Therefore, let us save as much time as possible so that we can get to the real business. Members take a lot of time to do a lot of research and all these things on the motions and bills. So, Senator, can you proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for statement on lack of national design and framework for civic education in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on the lack of a national design and framework for civic education in Kenya and its implications on the implementation of Section 100 of the County Governments Act 2012. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide an update on the implementation of Section 100 of the County Government Act of 2012, which requires each county to establish a civic education program. 2, state reasons for delay in establishment of civic education programs in all counties of Kenya, in contravention of the provisions of Article 33 of the Constitution, giving clear timelines for implementation. 3, state how the contents of the civic education curriculum are being determined in the absence of a national design and framework for civic education. 4, state targeted measures in the short term to establish a national design and framework for civic education in Kenya, leveraging the use of information technology. And finally, state measures in place to promote public awareness to ensure that the civic education programs established by counties are aligned and consistent with national goals and objectives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
As I've just communicated, I'll give few senators to make at least 2 minutes comments on these statements. Yeah, 2 minutes. Majority leader, are you trying to control the chair? Are you even trying to imagine? Okay, Senator Mutinda Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the statement by Senator Esi Okenyuri, matters civic education. And Mr. Speaker, I want to state that civic education is a continuous process of acquiring information and experience. And mostly as far as good governance is concerned. It is with this information that is actually not a privilege, but a right that should be offered from the county level. The fact that we are at a devolved system of governance. This civic education, Mr. Speaker, actually enhances good interrelations between the people of different ethnic groups and even religions over time. There is much more output when information is relayed. Mr. Speaker, I want to state with good civic education that should be offered continuously will help curb issues like what we are currently seeing. As you know, right now, our colleagues are not present because of the current process that are ongoing. And our youths are actually being very much misused by some of the politicians, because if civic education would have been well offered, they will be able to understand how some of the concerns that the opposition is actually bringing on table, how best that they can be addressed. It is a high time that civic education is actually implemented, as Senator Okenyuri is requesting, so that some of these issues can be addressed. Information is power. With information, these issues will actually be addressed in just not short-term perspective, but long-term perspective. It's so sad in our country today that this lack of information has made our Kenyans and from different walks of life to be able not to understand what it really entails, because I believe in good governance is about offering its people education and information that they need. So I really rise and support the statement by Senator Esi Okenyuri. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let us give a senator who has not spoken, who has not opened his or her mouth today. Senator Gloria Oroba Magoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support the statement by Senator Esther Okenyuri about civic education. Mr. Speaker, this country, where this country is going, When you look at our youth out in the street putting sufurias on their heads because they want the cost of living to go down, Mr. Speaker, it's because they don't understand. They don't understand how to bring the cost of living down. So therefore, their leaders are actually using them. Mr. Speaker, I was saddened this morning to see my age mates getting very, very excited that that today they are going for the demonstrations, Mr. Speaker. And I asked them one thing. I said, every time when they finish the demonstrations, Mr. Speaker, what do they benefit? Do they actually get something tangible, something sustainable? Do their leaders actually then tell them after the mandamano, this is what we have achieved, Mr. Speaker? If we had the proper civic education devolved down to the grassroots, down to the households in Imara Daima today, Mr. Speaker, where we are seeing the demonstrations, then those youth will refuse to be used. As a matter of fact, the youth will tell the senators who are not in the house that instead of going for mandamano, why are you not bringing a bill to propose that certain things be done so that the cost of living goes down? Mr. Speaker, then our youth will also understand that at the end of the day, it is not about demonstrating and causing havoc so that they can be brought to the table for a handshake, but they will understand it's about voting for the right leaders. Mr. Speaker, today when you look at the opposition, we only have one senator sitting there. Mr. Speaker, this one senator that is sitting on the side of opposition they understand what they need to do in order to represent their people. They understand that they need to come to the house where they are drawing a salary from and actually push for issues in terms of cost of living. Speaker, as I support Senator Okenyuri on this statement on civic education, I think we should even go a step further. It is imperative that we inculcate the culture of educating our children from nursery school on how county assemblies work, on how the government works, on who needs to do what so that we can have proper changes in this country. And so therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is very sad that we have leaders sitting in this house who actually need civic education so that they can understand their role in the house and how they can change the lives of Kenyans. And so therefore it is very much needed so that we can have this civic education in this house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Senator Mulgo, do you want to make a comment, or we are waiting for your statement, which is the next one coming? Okay. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for allowing me to make my comments about this civic education. Civic education is very important because of the empowerment that it gives people that have been educated. My community, the Pokots that come from West Pokot County, largely are illiterate, and therefore when it comes to empowerment about information and their rights, even they are not aware what should be their rights, and therefore civic education is very key into giving them empowerment. It also gives them to be aware about their rights. The Honorable Senator Jeptumo was giving sentiments about the rights, especially in cattle rustling area and so on, and also the fact that people that live in such areas are not aware about their rights, and therefore civic education will really give them to be aware of their rights. And then it also is a way of passing knowledge to them so that they know what is theirs, even within a county. Civic education should be carried, or the county government should train people and educate people on what is in their county and what powers they have, and participation in public opinion and public awareness is very key. And then also civic education makes people be united together because they have something to stand together for, and therefore I support this motion. Thank you.
Senator Kinyua Derito.
Bwana Spika, nasimama kuunga mkono taarifa hii. Elimu ya uraia ni muhimu sana katika gatuzi zetu, Bwana Spika. Kama vile inavyosemwa vizuri ya kwamba ujuzi ni nguvu, Bwana Spika. Ukiangalia katika wakati mwingi ambapo raia wanaenda kupewa masomo ni wakati kuna uchaguzi. Lakini Bwana Spika, maisha hayaishi na anzi na uchaguzi, Bwana Spika. Kuna mambo mengi sana yanapaswa kuwa yakifunzwa, Bwana Spika. Ukitembea, Bwana Spika, wakati kama huu unasikia watu wanasema kuhusu maisha yamepanda. Bwana Spika, tukienda kuwafunza wananchi kuhusu hali bora za ukulima, Bwana Spika, ni mbegu gani wanapaswa kutumia, Bwana Spika, ni mimea gani wanapaswa kupanda, Bwana Spika, na ni wakati upi wanapaswa kupanda, Bwana Spika. Haya ni mambo muhimu ambayo yanaweza kutumika katika gatuzi zetu, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, ukiangalia shida nyingi zilizoko ni kama vile Mheshimiwa Murgor alivyosema, unapata wananchi wengi hawaelewi na hawafahamu, Bwana Spika. Hata wakati tunapaswa kupanda, Bwana Spika, hatujui ni mbolea gani ambayo tunapaswa kutumia. Bwana Spika, unapata watu wanasema ya kwamba kile ambacho ni cha bei rahisi ndicho muhimu kwao. Lakini Bwana Spika, ni kwa sababu ya kutokuwa na ule ujuzi na ufahamu wa maneno, Bwana Spika. Na ni jukumu yetu, nataka kushukuru taarifa iliyoletwa, Bwana Spika, tuizingatie na tuiweke maanani, Bwana Spika, ndiposa wananchi wetu waweze kufahamu na kuelewa, Bwana Spika. Kwa sababu kama ilivyosemwa, wale wanaofanya maandamano wanawaahidia watu maneno mengi, Bwana Spika. Lakini shida ya vile ambavyo tunaweza tukaleta gharama ya maisha chini, Bwana Spika, ni kuambia wananchi ukweli. Kuambia kwamba mambo yanayotendeka katika ulimwengu, Bwana Spika, yanatuadhiri hata sisi. Vita vilivyo kwa Ukraine vinatuadhiri hapa Kenya. Bwana Spika, mambo ya mafuta, bei ya mafuta, tuambie wa Kenya ukweli. Bwana Spika, tuambie kwamba bei imepanda kwa sababu ukiangalia hata hali ya hewa imebadilika, Bwana Spika. Lakini hayo itawezekana, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu viongozi wengi ama ukiangalia wengi wanataka kuchukua fursa, kwa sababu wananchi wetu hawaelewi. Badala ya kuwafunza ni kuongoza katika njia zisizokuwa za amani, Bwana Spika. Kupeleka watu maandamano, Bwana Spika, haitakuwa ya manufaa. Vizuri tuambia kwamba wakati kama huu, kwa sababu kumenyesha, Bwana Spika, ukitembea sehemu nyingi za nchi yetu ya Kenya, saa hii watu wanapaswa kuwa akipanda, Bwana Spika, na kile ambacho tukikuwa tukiongea hapa, Bwana Spika, ni vile ambavyo wananchi wetu watakavyopelekewa mbolea, na mbolea yenyewe isipelekwe tu mijini, Bwana Spika, kwa sababu watu walio mijini, Bwana Spika, hawapandi. Mpelekwe mashambani, Bwana Spika. Mfano ukienda Nyahururu, mbolea isifikishwe Nyahururu peke yake, Bwana Spika. Ipelekwe Marmanet, ipelekwe Rumuruti, ipelekwe Muhwateti, ipelekwe Kinambi, ipelekwe Matanya, ipelekwe Ramuria, Bwana Spika. Kwa sababu hiyo ndio taarifa inayomaanisha katika gatuzi zetu, Bwana Spika. Si katika miji pekee yake, kwa sababu watu wa mijini wanaelewa maneno, lakini ukienda pale ndiposa nasikia watu wengi wakisema, Bwana Spika, unaposikia wakiongea ya kwamba ground mambo ni tofauti, kwa sababu wale ndio hapo ndio maneno iko. Kwa hivyo nasimama leo kuunga mkono taarifa hiyo, na isikuwe tu ni taarifa, ni tuifuatilie mpaka yale ambayo aliyeleta taarifa alitaka tuyaangazie kwa kindani. Nashukuru, Bwana Spika.
Senator CJ.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to also support the statement by the Honorable Senator Esi on the need to seek information from the county governments and also generally on the implementation of Section 100 of the County Governments Act that provides for the training or training on civic education. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, civic education mandates or obligates the residents of each and every county in this country at large to also understand and appreciate self-governance. When we talk about self-governance, it can only be understood when the public knows their obligations and the obligations of those whom they have put in office in terms of the leadership from governor all the way to the MCA, and also extends beyond to the national government. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, Section 3 of the County Governments Act 2012, as part of its objectives, provides that that act facilitates or rather obligates the county government to undertake training or education on matters that are devolved and also on matters that the national government has an obligation to perform on behalf of its citizen. Where we are asked, I know, Mr. Speaker, at the end of this, you will commit this statement to Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. I do not want to preempt the extent of the work that the committee will do, but I would like to commit that once this statement is committed to us, we will undertake that work as expected of us as a committee. But then, Mr. Speaker, I note that the concerns in that particular statement requires also an extended approach in terms of what are the safeguard measures, or what are the measures that county governments have put in place in terms of legislation, in terms of ensuring that the provisions of that section 100 are implemented by putting in place policies, putting in place also manuals and training manuals, which the national government is expected to set up, cascaded downwards to the county government, in order to make sure that it is not only put in paper as a requirement in law and is not implemented or enabled by the respective county governable AC for bringing it to the attention of the House and also the relevant committee, so that even as we embark on working on the statement, we will have an opportunity to invite the Education Committee, which also has a mandate in ensuring that relevant curriculum or regulatory frameworks are put in place in order to ensure that people at their lowest level are made to understand that they have a government that they've put in place, and that government has got specific obligations. Mr. Speaker, I know for a fact that a resident from Jemaner, the farthest corner of the county I represent, at some point, if he or she were to be asked as to what is the role of the county government, of a member of the county assembly, or a member of the National Assembly, or even Senate, who I represent here, what would be the specific roles, they might not be able to understand. And the best they can do is to ask, I need my right to be protected by the senator, by the MP, by the MC or the governor, without understanding beyond that demand for that right, that there is also an obligation on that particular citizen. I know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that once we give them that opportunity to understand in the course of this particular training and implementation of this requirement of the law, they will know that they also have a role to play. And once they participate, that is when service delivery to the people will be eased and will actually be felt up to that lowest level. Mr. Speaker, I support, and as I've said, I undertake that we will do the job of the relevant committee once this statement is committed to us. Thank you.
Now let us get the next two statements for simultaneously by Senator Julius Mulgo and then Senator Abbas Mohammed. What is the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to make a small contribution on this one, and I have been on the line, Mr. Speaker. I ask if I can be given a few minutes.
How did you know you were in the line?
Because my gadget is showing so, Mr. Speaker.
No, you know,
So
in
unless we
the
are not,
spirit of trying to save time, I was trying to limit the number of speakers this afternoon on that one particular statement, because I've given more than eight senators
Mr.
on
Speaker, I'm
that
asking-
particular statement by Senator.
Mr. Speaker, this affects the entire country.
So if you can make 1 minute, you can.
Mr. Speaker, maybe two minutes. Thank you.
I'm really keen to hear what you want to say.
Extremely
It's
so,
matter
Mr.
of national importance.
Yes.
Let me give you 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, the person who is regarded as a father of civic education is Benjamin Franklin, Mr. Speaker, who is a founding father of the American nation, which was a colony of Britain. Mr. Speaker, he believed that a good government will come from good citizens. A better government will come from a well-informed citizenry. Mr. Speaker, this statement, and I pray JLAC will look at it very keenly, it seeks to set up a framework. Because a lot of times, Mr. Speaker, civic education in this country is carried towards election, and it is in a warped manner towards supporting or opposing government. So, Mr. Speaker, I really urge that they look into it, and when they look into it, they will think about counties like the Honorable Mulgore's county and my county in Tana River, where there is so much clanism, tribalism, and there is no framework for, expressing things that are governmental. So then politicians take advantage, Mr. Speaker, to lead or mislead people along tribal lines. And Mr. Speaker, even making government irrelevant or good politics irrelevant. So, Mr. Speaker, we need this statement like yesterday to be done in such a way that it translates into reality, especially in some of our counties that are full of clanism, tribal affiliations, and therefore they make the people look at government at the national, even at the county, in terms of clouding, using their tribal eyes. And it makes life very difficult, even to do politics at the county level, at the national level. This is a very good statement, and I pray that they will give it the attention it deserves so that we can all benefit from this concern that was shown by my very hard-working fellow colleague, Senator Esther Okenyuri. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. This statement has attracted a lot of interest. And where I sit, I know a statement cannot be able to solve the issues that you are addressing, Senator Mungatana. So I wish Senator Esther could even come up with a bill that could really help. Because also where I sit, I know we have that challenge of people getting the right information. People are misled by media, like now, social media is really misleading everybody. So Esther, Senator Esther, maybe think beyond the statement, because this is just a statement from the ministry, which will not be able to sort the real issues. You want to make a commitment? Please do.
Mr. Speaker, I want to actually make a commitment in working with the members who have like mind, and I'm looking forward to full support, especially now that this is something that should have actually been done. The closest it got was what Professor Kibwana was doing, but otherwise generally there hasn't been much on it. So I'm really committed to doing that, and I'm counting on the support of colleague senators. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Mulgo Julius.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make this statement. Request for statement on grabbing of land belonging to Kanyarkwat Group Ranch in West Pokot. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the grabbing of land belonging to Kanyarkwat Group Ranch in West Pokot. In the statement, the committee should explain the circumstances under which land belonging to Kanyarkwat Group Ranch, which is a community land, was mislocated, clarify whether the correct legal procedure was followed in issuing the below title deeds, and state which beneficiaries are on West Pokot, Kanyarkwat 6, measuring 800 acres and occupied by 70 households, and 2, West Pokot, Kanyarkwat 7, measuring 1,137 acres and occupied by 200 households. 3, West Pokot, Kanyarkwat 10, measuring 800 acres and occupied by 200 households, and state the measures taken by the Ministry of Lands, Public Works and Urban Development, if any, to ensure that the land reverts back to the county government or community, and the legal action taken against the illegal beneficiaries. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one by Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 531 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Finance and Budget on the status of the pending bills in Wajir County Government. In the statement, the committee should state the total amount of unpaid bills in Wajir County, giving a breakdown of these bills since 2013-2014 financial year to date, segregating the bills on the basis of development and the current expenditures against approved budgetary allocation for the county. State steps that have been taken to identify and fraudulently or irregularly claims among the pending unpaid bills, disclosing how the figures have changed over time, including interest charged, stating reasons for the delay in settling the bills. Give the particulars of statutory institutions, suppliers, contractors affected by the unpaid bills, disclosing the amount owed by the county government. State measures put in place by the county government in ensuring that the statutory institutions, suppliers, or contractors are paid, stating timelines, if any, and disclose legal or financial consequences that have arisen as a result of unpaid bills, stating the interventions, if any, to ensure that such delays in payment do not recur in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let's get to statement by the Chair, Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, Human Rights. Understanding Order 56-1.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 56-1B of the Senate Standing Orders. Honorable Speaker, to issue a statement on the activities of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights for the period 13th October 2022 to 29th of March 2023. Honorable Speaker, the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights is established under Standing Order 228, 3 of the Senate Standing Orders, and is mandated inter alia to consider all matters relating to constitutional affairs, the organization and administration of law and justice, elections, promotion of principles of leadership, ethics and integrity, agreements, treaties, and conventions, and implementation of the provisions of the Constitution and on human rights. Honorable Speaker, the committee, during the first session of this 13th Parliament and the first quarter of the second session, has undertaken during this period of review 31 sittings in which it considered various legislative proposals, bills, statements, petitions, and stakeholder engagements as set out below. A. Legislative proposals. Honorable Speaker, the committee undertook the pre-publication scrutiny of one legislative proposal which was referred to the committee pursuant to Standing Order 133A of the Senate Standing Orders. This was the draft Constitution of Kenya Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill sponsored by Senator Beth Shengo, MP, seeking to amend the Constitution to give effect to the two-thirds gender principle in elective public bodies. The committee proceeded to examine the proposed bill against the criteria set out in the standing orders and held discussions with the sponsor during the consideration of the proposal. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, the committee resolved to recommend to the Honorable Speaker of the Senate to direct that the legislative proposal is accepted and that it be published as a bill pursuant to Senate Standing Order 131-2. And Mr. Speaker, I am aware that this process is actively going on. Honorable Speaker, the committee further considered several bills which lapsed during the previous term of Parliament and identified some of which are due for reintroduction during the current term. These bills, Mr. Speaker, include the Law of Succession Amendment Bill, which is to be sponsored by Senator Veronica Maina, MP, and who is a member of the committee. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, the Security Laws Amendment Bill, and number 3, the Alternative Dispute Resolution Bill. Under B, Mr. Speaker, on bills, honorable members and Speaker, the committee considered 3 bills during the reporting period and tabled the reports thereon in the Senate. These reports are under the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill number 49 of 2022, the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill number 5 of 2022, and the Preservation of Human Dignity and Enforcement of Economic and Social Rights Bill 2022, Senate Bills number 7 of 2022. Mr. Speaker, the IEBC Amendment Bill has since been ascended to and is under implementation, while the other 2 bills are at various stages of consideration in the Senate. Honorable Speaker, this marks 100% completion rate on the consideration and reporting by the committee on the bills which were referred to it in the session. Mr. Speaker, under statements, the committee has considered 4 statements sought by the senators and referred to the committee. These statements, Mr. Speaker, are as follows. 1, the statement made by Senator Samson Cherargei, MP, on commemoration of Koitalel Samoei Memorial Day and violations of the human rights of the Talai community of Kenya. Statement sought by Senator Alexander Mundigi, MP, on delayed payment to transport providers during and after the August 2, 2022 general elections by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in Embu County. Statement sought by Senator Hamida Kibwana, MP, on access to justice by the family of the late Miss Ebi Noelle Samuels, and statement sought by Senator Christela Sige, MP, on the status of implementation of the Legal Aid Act, Act number 6 of 2016. Mr. Speaker, on the statement made by Senator Samson Cherargei, MP, the committee resolved to address the matter holistically and to consider the work previously done on historical injustices in Kenya. This is an ongoing work by the committee, including during the consideration of the petitions presently before it and which are discussed later in this statement. On the statement sought by Senator Alex Mundigi, MP, the committee held a meeting with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, at which a detailed report was submitted on pending payments to service providers in Embu County, as well as other pending bills at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission from other service providers, not only from Embu, but across the country, including service providers who also participated during the August 2022 general election. Mr. Speaker, on the statement sought by Senator Hamida Kibwana, MP, the committee was scheduled to hold meetings yesterday and today with the key stakeholders to press for action on why action was yet to be undertaken on the persons responsible for Ms. Ebi's unfortunate demise. Mr. Speaker, before this could happen, that is, before we could convene the sessions yesterday and today, we were informed, the committee was informed that the authorities had already moved swiftly to arrest and present in court the key suspect in the death of the said student. This is a matter, Honorable Speaker, that we are now closely monitoring as a committee, and we will ensure that we follow to its conclusion so that we present a report to the House to ensure that justice is not only done but is seen to be done to the family of the student. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the statement sought by Senator Crystal Asige MP, the committee held a meeting with the National Legal Aid Service at which the committee was apprised on the status of the implementation of the Legal Aid Act, Act number 6 of 2016, and measures being taken to address the challenges that have hindered its effective rollout. In considering the said statements, Mr. Speaker, the respective senators were invited to attend and participate in the meetings of the committee, and their contributions and participations were duly recorded. In petitions, Mr. Speaker, the committee has 2 petitions referred to it and which are undergoing consideration. These petitions are one by Mr. Paulo Musle concerning historical injustices suffered by the Torobek community, and another petition by the Kipsigis Community Clans Organization members concerning land injustices suffered by the Kipsigis community. Mr. Speaker, the committee has undertaken extensive background and obtained sufficient information on works done on the 2 petitions. The committee is further scheduled to visit Nakuru and Kericho counties on the 14th and 15th of April 2023 to meet and receive submissions from petitioners and other stakeholders in the 2 petitions. Once that is done, Mr. Speaker, we project that we will finalize on our report and have them tabled in the Senate within 60 days timeline as provided for by the standing orders of this House. I encourage the senators who sought for these statements previously, because we have received in the course of our background check that there are various statements which have been sought on historical injustices, on land injustices, and also on various communities that have been affected, to also participate in the process so that we substantively deal with these issues. Mr. Speaker, on vetting of appointment to public office, Honorable Speaker, the committee during the period under review undertook the vetting of the Honorable Johnson Mudama, who was nominated for appointment to the position of Member of Parliamentary Service Commission under Article 127 2D of the Constitution. The committee tabled its report in the Senate, and following deliberations, the Senate adopted the report and approved the said appointment of the Honorable Johnson Mudama to the Parliamentary Service Commission. He has reported into office and is undertaking his mandate as a commissioner and serving the people of Kenya in that capacity as one of the members of the Parliamentary Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, on stakeholder engagements, the committee continued to hold regular engagements with its key stakeholders to receive submissions and exchange various legislative and other business under consideration of the committee, and also on matters which have been committed by the House to the committee. The committee has also participated in activities at which the chairperson
Well, we've just taken a short break from the Senate proceedings. We just want to take you to Ole Sereni, where the American Chamber of Commerce Summit on investment in Kenya is currently underway. And as you can see on your screen, we have Trade and Investment Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria on the podium, and of course enumerating the importance of having a trade deal between Kenya and the United States. We are still waiting for the arrival of President William Ruto, who is expected to address this gathering. And in a moment, we have that signal that he's on the way coming. We'll definitely take you there. We are still in the studio with Chris Otieno, who is a member of the Protective and Safety Association of Kenya. We've been talking about the ongoing demonstrations by Azimio La Umoja supporters, and time now I want to hear from him about this meeting between American Chamber of Commerce and Industries and Kenya, and why Americans are interested in investing in Kenya.
There are many reasons why Americans are interested in investing in Kenya. First of all, security reasons, and one of them is the Horn of Africa. There are a lot of things that happen in the Horn of Africa which are of great interest to America in terms of advancing their own security in the fight back to terrorism, and things along those directions, advancing their military technology, advancing their countermeasures against terrorism, and also knowing how terrorist cells operate, and of course also their trade interests in Kenya, tourism and the like. So security and trade could be part and parcel of the many reasons why they're interested in the happenings in our country. Yes.
Yesterday we saw the Western world, and the American ambassador Meg Whitman was part of that team, telling Kenyans that we need to put our house in order because Kenya is a strategic partner for the West, and of course we also a critical player in the African economic agenda. Does that explain why you have more than 100 chief executive officers of American companies congregating here in Kenya?
Absolutely. That is a good reason for them to congregate. Like I mentioned, interest, business interest, trade interest, security interest, and many others that interest all those companies. For you to invest, there must be some guarantee of security. For the military to advance its weaponry, there must be an area of study. And all this put together will definitely bring all those. And you look at the combination of the kind of trade done by these CEOs, then they'll elaborate to you, or rather point to you, what are the interests of America in our nation.
And there has always been that great desire by the Americans to set up a military base here in Kenya. I know they have some level of presence along the Kenyan coastline of the Lamu Island. I also know that the Chinese had also showed some interest in setting up a base there. How do you ensure that Kenya, which is a very small country, compared to the American, to the United States of America, so how do you ensure that you create a win-win kind of a situation or kind of a platform?
Number one, if they are to invest in our country, which they have, all right, they must have a safeguard for their interest and the investments, right? We also have a very close tie with Americans from the 44th president and those items. Kenyans benefit a lot from American scholarships, and they also benefit a lot from the researches that they do here in our country, right? So even if you also look at it from a military perspective, we're very well located in Africa, very strategic for them, and they could do a lot of military investment and put military installations in our country, which would go a long way in really helping them defend or protect their investments in the country. Yes.
Where is Tanzania not strategically located?
I wouldn't say much, but I'd probably say